Well, welcome along to the next in this mini-series exploring the uses of bridging finance. And for this instalment, I'm delighted to be joined by Head of Sales at PT Partner Shawbrook Bank, and that's Gavin Seaholme. So Gavin, lovely to see you again, and thank you for joining me on this call. And just to start off, I'd be interested to hear your views about bridging finance, because it's definitely become more mainstream in the last few years. Would you agree?
I would. Thanks, Vanessa. Great to be here again, working with you guys. Yeah, bridging finance has evolved and it's continuing to evolve. If you go back sort of 5, 6, 7 years, it'd kind of be like if a client is talking about bridging finance, the first question probably would have been, what problem have you got and why are you taking bridging finance? You fast forward to where we are now, you have a very liquid market, very competitive rates, a product solution for a client who's innovative in making use to maximise an asset and yield, then bridging finance is the perfect tool for that.
Indeed, and I think one of the most powerful things about it is it's probably the best mechanism for recycling cash.
Fundamentally, bridging finance is there for smart investors to utilise quickly and move on their asset and actually maximise that asset going forward by refinancing and by adding value by way of development or refurbishment and so on. It's used to utilise quickly, and the reason why investors can utilise it quickly is because they spot opportunity, and when you spot opportunity, you need to move quickly, and using bridging finance to facilitate that transaction helps on that journey. Also, you can create a longer term solution as well with a bridge to let offering as well, which is obviously very keen for a client to understand that cradle to grave journey as well, which you can take them on.
Yes, I was going to touch on that kind of cradle to grave scenario that you just mentioned, where you get bridging finance with a term exit product as part of the package. And I think it's really important for property investors to know about that, because one of the biggest risks of using bridging finance is finding that for whatever reason you don't have an exit. And I think having that package obviously gives peace of mind, reduces admin and costs, etc. And this is something that Shawbrook Bank like to do as well, isn't it? You have that solution.
Yeah, I think the key word for me there is the exit. You can lend money and you can look at an asset, but you need to have a viable exit solution. Now, at Shawbrook, because of our experience in bridging finance, by offering a full, rounded solution in that journey, does help for certainty from a client's perspective, helps their journey. You know that if you're going to move from situation A to situation B, maximising and leveraging at the same time, if you can do that under one roof with one lender, then that obviously makes that journey not only quicker, faster, more certainty, but also probably cheaper as well with regards to less fees payable and so on. So you get a general better journey. But for me, and it's a hot topic that we talk about continually, and it's something we always look at when fundamentally trying to look for a short-term lending bridging, is a viable exit strategy is key to the transaction. And luckily at Shawbrook, we're experts to understand most exits and scenarios, given the fact that we have a large book that's serving us very well in the bridging arena.
And you also have a product where it's possible to lend some or all of the refurbishment costs as well, don't you?
Yeah, we do. We have a lending for cost product, which allows the client to utilise funds from us to fund the refurbishments works, and then actually look to recoup that money on a refinance option, either with ourselves preferably or another lender. But fundamentally, we're actually being able to lend the client up to 85% day one, which obviously helps cash flow in these projects. And it's available on residential for light refurbishments, which is a predominantly large core of the market that we see.
Yeah, I think, you touched on it briefly also about speed, because having a bridging loan in place essentially does make you a cash buyer. So that could help you grab an opportunity that might disappear if you were waiting to get a normal, mortgage facility in place. And I think in the market that we're in, I think that speed is a massive advantage, because it's very quickly changing. There's a lot of turbulence and volatility, and I think that bridging finance may even come more into its own, in the months ahead.
Yeah, that's a very key point. Again, you look at just the mainstream regulated mortgage market with the stamp duty changes, has created a rush for people to get transactions completed, and that's driven a higher kind of focus on regulated bridging, for example, which predominantly would always be slightly behind a more investor profile of refurbishment and so on. Investors are smart, and investors are a brand themselves, and they look for opportunity, and they maximize that opportunity by looking for off-market transactions, finding stock that's available, but they need to move quickly, and their reputation allows them to move quickly for that transaction. And if you can fund them on that journey quickly as well, then that kind of all the moving parts fit in that journey really well.
Yeah, and I think that also ties in with Shawbrook's philosophy of wanting to build long-term relationships with investors. So the client profile, their track record, and you work actively with them, to keep growing and moving forwards.
Yeah, it's key for us. Bridging is predominantly asset-led for a lot of lenders. At Shawbrook, we kind of look at the client and the asset as one and on par with each other. Without the client, you wouldn't have the asset. Also, you need to understand that client's journey, and I've talked about it previously. Understanding their strategy and their journey is one of the key components for us, because we want to create that long-term relationship. And we know from holding focus groups and myself talking to clients and brokers, they want that certainty of a relationship as well. They want to know a bank is going to be there to support them. So, for example, in bridging, they know that if they need to move quickly, they know they've got the support of that funder or that bank behind them. And at Shawbrook, we're very proud to be able to deliver that for our clients.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, Gavin, I haven't had the pleasure of talking to you since well before the COVID-19 pandemic struck last spring, and I'm interested to know, since then, have you seen any mini trends developing in the way investors are using bridging finance?
Yeah, it was interesting. Bridging finance was probably going to be the one area that everyone got a bit nervous around when the pandemic started. But actually, again, the right client profile and making sure you've got the right relationship with your broker, especially, and understanding that the broker knows their clients and the support that a broker can offer. We kind of looked at the bridging process, and we kept our sort of what we'd like to say the drawbridge down, the plane in the sky, and we kept lending. And we actually realised that investors were seeking opportunity when there was diversity. You had the issues about valuers and different cohorts with solicitors and so on, but actually, fundamentally, a true investor with a good profile was continuing to grow and navigate through the choppy waters that the pandemic has brought, and we're still seeing. There has been some trends around some more value with the changes to commercial offering with the development changes, so more PD schemes. We're seeing a lot of semi-commercial property being maximised and utilised. And we're also seeing a shift. We talked about it previously, and we've also visited some projects. There's a definite shift from the HMO model, which is still a strong, good yielding model, to a more co-living, but also a more specialist kind of tenant profile as well. But in that, you're seeing bridging facilitating them improvements or that refurbishment to start with, and we're seeing more growth in that area at Shawbrook, definitely.
That's interesting, Gavin. So the type of properties that are being used, shall we say, for co-living, you're seeing them being developed slightly differently in respect of how COVID-19 has influenced tenants' choices.
Yeah, I think it's probably in our understanding and what we're seeing, especially when you look at the refurbishment and you can understand the schemes that you can see the standard and the level has changed. There is a more importance to make it feel more co-living rather than shared, I suppose is the best way of putting it. So it's kind of there is a differential, and that for me is a differential, and it's probably the quality and the standard of the end project. And we see that, and we can see that again on the journey when we visit pre-COVID, when we used to visit the sites and see it, and also when we are seeing projects throughout their transition, that you can see the standard and the quality is improving. And regulation has had parts to play on that as well over the last couple of years as well. I talk about it quite a lot. Lenders and funders and banks are always quite reactive to what the market is doing. So if the market is demanding a product, then lenders and banks are quite usually reactive. But we're kind of seeing now that at Shawbrook especially, we're trying to be more proactive and kind of talking to our markets and understanding the markets and trying to offer a solution quickly via our broker partners, who are fundamental in that as well, from the market feedback. Bridging has evolved in Shawbrook just over the last year. We've evolved and our offering has grown and changed, and we're very proud of it. And I think there's more to come going forward in the offering for what we can offer our investors, but also what the investors are finding on the market as well.
No, I can see that is going to be the case. I guess the part of this mini series is to educate landlords about bridging finance. It's not always the answer, but it can be an important tool in their toolbox, and they should be aware of it. And, you know, very often, sometimes if people understand a financing mechanism, they can then actually go and source a deal that actually suits that. So it kind of does expand your thinking to be aware of what's out there and how you can finance deals, because as we know, it's the lifeblood of every property business to access finance and to use all those tools. But for somebody that's watching this that hasn't ventured into using bridging finance, what would be your top 3 tips to them?
My number 1 tip would be affiliate yourself with a specialist broker that can help navigate the market. There's hundreds of lenders out there offering solutions. There's great product innovation, but there's lots of different moving parts to a solution. Exit fees, arrangement fees. So it's understanding, making sure that if you appoint a broker, which is key to this transaction, and they find the exact product that suits your needs for bridging. And that could be speed, LTV, leverage, however you look at it. So that would be key. The second part to me would be make sure that you have the right team as well. So if you are doing a refurbishment program, you have an experienced builder, contractor to work with you along with that. And thirdly, for me, more importantly, is make sure you do your due diligence on anything that you buy in the asset, especially if you're going to auction, or maybe you're looking at buying at below market value. Make sure the due diligence you do on that asset is exactly where you have a clear plan that if you're going to go from A to B, that you don't overrun, incur too many hidden costs, and you do a full mapped out journey, very detailed, and stick to that plan. If the numbers don't stack up and it doesn't work, it's not going to work. So make sure you do the right due diligence day one as well. But for me, fundamentally, a broker is key.
No, I totally agree with you. And I regard them as almost like a business partner, because, you know, I've worked with my broker for many, many years, and they understand me, know what I try and do and stuff. So I totally agree. Would you, I mean, I only asked for 3, but would a 4th one perhaps be have a plan B if plan A doesn't go according to that?
Yeah, I think it's imperative to look at, again, it kind of, we can rewind to what we talked about earlier around exits, and things do come up, things do change. It is you touched on it, the market moves, the sands shift, and it can move quite quickly. And you know, traditionally, bridging finance has a term between 6, 12, 18 months. That's quite a long period of time where things can change. So always, if you're looking for a flexible finance solution that can help serve your needs, then also make sure you've got a flexible plan of action as well, so you can be able to change if you have to. But for me, again, that's where experience comes down to it, and having the right broker support team. We've always talked about power team in inverted commas. You know, you've got the right team around you and in the right direction. At Shawbrook, we monitor our bridging finance throughout the whole journey. It's not a case that we get the money out and we'll see what happens in 12 months' time. We're continually liaising with our clients, working with our clients, understanding their journey, making sure the journey's on track, how we can support them if there are any changes afoot, and so on.
No, I think that's such a valuable part of the equation of working with Shawbrook. And I know, because I've been on your site visits with you on occasion to see you talking to the clients and seeing how the project's coming along. I guess as we close this out, you know, worst case scenario, you've taken bridging finance for say a year, and your project is delayed. Some curveball comes along. When it comes to the end of the term, what happens then? I know it probably depends on individual products, but is the best thing to do, I would imagine, is to stay in contact with the lender and let them know if you are going to overrun a little bit.
Yeah, I think the main point for me on that would be that when you're sourcing your finance and your intermediary and your broker, you need to make sure what that looks like from that lender. So if there is an issue and there may be an overrun and these projects overrun, we know that does happen. What's the outcome if you do overrun? Will you get penalised? Will your cash flow start getting eaten into because of the penalties arising? How much transparency is there in that journey from the lender? So for me, it would be clear line of communication. Any bank or funder that is in the bridging space should be working closely with that client anyway, so you kind of see that coming if there is a problem, and you just work for a solution. At Shawbrook, we work very closely with our clients. Like I've said, we don't penalise for any overrunning. We don't have any sort of 3% default penalty if you overrun, for example. And I think the market has done a lot more in bridging in itself recently to be more transparent over the years. And I think most lenders now do look at a sort of the customer journey and the TCF element to it, and making sure that, look, if there is a pitfall, you're there to support them, not to kind of rein the debt back in as quickly as you can,
Fantastic. Well, as always, Gavin, thank you so much for sharing your insights. Always appreciate your input here at Property Tribes. And, I think it's really important, as I said right at the start, that landlords and property investors do know all the tools that they can have in their toolbox, because you never know when you might have to reach for one, and it could just help you move forward in a way that you perhaps previously didn't realise you could. So I think these kind of conversations are really important. I'm sure you agree.
I do, and I think you guys do a great job educating the market for what is available from lenders out there as well. So yeah, there's a lot of tools out there for clients at the moment to definitely utilise on their journey.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for joining me, Gavin. And to our viewers out there, if you are watching on YouTube, we do invite you to hit the subscribe button and also smash the notifications bell, because we produce regular video content. And please also jump across to us at propertytribes.com, where this video will be hosted and where our discussions around bridging will continue. But for now, thank you to Gavin, and thank you to everybody out there in YouTube land for watching.